Let me share a folktale with you from my home country, Haiti, that we can afterwards discuss and talk about how it connects to our current reality today and probably for the past 75 years. Hi, my name is Christina and welcome to the Yap session. I love art, okay? Art is one of my favorite ways of expression. It's one of my favorite forms of expression, especially if it's politically inclined. And Haiti is known for its politically inclined art. And today we're going to address that. And today we're going to talk about the folktale named Sonson. This folktale actually has been made into a movie. Now it is seriously pixelated. I watched it on YouTube. I can put the link down below. I want people to go watch it and see for themselves what it's about. It does have French translation. But again, it's a very old video. It is super pixelated. So if you don't want to watch it, you just want to hear me talk about it first, that's fine too. And I'm going to need my iPad for this because I like to take notes. So give me a second. Okay, great. Now let's talk about Sonson. I have some notes here. Now the folktale starts Dylan. Dylan is the main character in our folktale. Okay, so let's get it done. So Dylan is sitting outside. I'm not sure where in the countryside he is, but he's sitting outside. Basically, he comes and he grabs a chair. He's sitting down, rocking on the chair, just minding his own business. A woman comes outside the door and she's just kind of walking by. She's pretty pissed off about something. She has suitcases and bags and she looks like she's waiting for some kind of chauffeur. While Dylan is sitting down minding his own business, a dude with bandages across his head, he comes walking by and he's like, "Oh, hi, Dylan." Dylan's like, "Oh, hi, Sonson." So we met Sonson. Okay, that's Sonson. So Sonson comes through and Dylan's like, "How are you? How are you feeling?" And Sonson's like, "I'm okay. And you know what? Thank you for doing what you did for me the other day." And basically, we don't know yet what Dylan did to Sonson or for Sonson, but all we know is that Sonson approves. So Dylan says, "Yes, of course, I can't let the kid disrespect you like that, Kinga Dinga Durgan." And now we know that there was some kid probably messing around with Sonson and Dylan came to the rescue. Here's the thing, I said it a little backwards because the beginning is a little fuzzy, but what really happened is when Dylan was going to go outside, that woman came outside of the same house as him. Her name is Ghislaine. She was actually taking her son, whose name is, I forgot, Jefferson, because they were leaving that house to go live in Port-au-Prince. Okay, so that happened before, but the way the cinematic kind of made it seem like it was happening at the same time until you realize she was already gone by the time Dylan was talking to Sonson. So continuing on, Sonson asks, "Where is Jefferson? Where is the young kid?" And Dylan explains that Giselle got so mad that she took the kid and they went off to Port-au-Prince. And as Dylan was talking to Sonson, another friend comes by. That's another character you gotta remember, okay? I know. Okay, great. So we have Sauve. Sauve comes out of the car. He's like a young adult. And by the way, Dylan and Sonson, they're like elders. So Sauve comes out the car and he's like, "Dylan!" Dylan's like, "Sauve, how are you?" And they're super excited to see each other. And Sonson sees that. So he's like, "You know what? No problem, Dylan. Your friend is here. I'm about to head on gone." So Dylan's like, "Okay, Sonson, I'll see you later." And Sauve's like, "Oh my goodness, let me come sit next to you. Let's talk." And then he's like, "It's pretty quiet around here. Where is the kid?" And so Dylan says, "Well, something happened. Giselle got mad. She took her kid and they took off to Port-au-Prince." And Sauve's like, "Oh wow, what happened? I want to know because I want to know too, Sauve. What the hell? What happened?" That's kind of like crazy stuff. So, he was getting the cheese made, the tea, whatever you want to call it. So Dylan says, "Let me explain to you something. Sonson is not somebody that you would want to mess with, okay? Specifically, verbally, he said, Sonson is somebody that if you stepped underfoot, you must be sure to say sorry." Okay, so we're kind of getting like, what's going on with Sonson? What kind of man is he? What did he do to the kid? You know what I'm saying? So whatever. So he's like, what actually happened is that for some reason, Jefferson went around Sonson and farted. And pause. Cultural understandings. See, in Haiti, it's quite disrespectful for young children to fart around adults, actually. The more traditional you are in Haiti, it's very disrespectful for children to fart around adults. We actually have a weird trend even that adults are like ashamed of farting for some reason. So adults will fart and if you're a kid around them, they'll look at you because you're supposed to say, "Excuse me," as if you're the kid and you farted, as if farting is not a natural body reaction. But basically it's very disrespectful. And back in the day where the story is talking about Sonson, this was like around the 1950s. So, like super disrespectful, super strict, whatever, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, Jefferson goes next to Sonson and he farts and Sonson finds that to be very disrespectful. So Sonson's like, "How could you fart next to me? I'm an adult, have some respect for me." And Jefferson turns around and he's like, "Fuck you. I'm I'm not even kidding. That's what he says. He's like, screw you, basically. And Sonson, again, another cultural phenomenon. It is quite normal in Haiti. I don't know now, but it was quite normal in Haiti for family friends to discipline each other's kids. And by discipline, I mean a tap or a hit, something that would be very like controversial in America. So basically, Sonson goes to grab Jefferson to do that. However, Jefferson is slick, he's slick as hell. So Sonson falls down. This causes Jefferson to run to grab a rock. And if I told you that Sonson had bandages in his head, you already know what happened. So basically, Silver's shocked. He's like, what? Jefferson, the good little Jefferson, the boy, the sweet one, the one that would never do that to anybody. And Dylan's like, yeah. And that's what happened. And when I found out, I had to discipline Jefferson because Bois, who's Dylan's son, was not around. And Bois is Jefferson's father. So Dylan, his son Bois, and Giselle were together. They had Jefferson. So he's like, when Bois was not around, I had to discipline Jefferson. When Giselle finds out what I'm doing, she gets so mad. She starts insulting me, calling me all types of stuff, yada yada yada. And then Bois comes home, and Bois realizes that she's so crazy with her words. He's like, you need to calm down. And because he defended me, she was like, you know what, to hell with all of you guys. I'm packing my bags, I'm leaving. Okay, cool. Now again, I'm speaking to a more American audience, so if you're like, don't hit my kid, that's not your kid, don't touch my kid, I completely respect that. I completely understand that. But again, we're talking about a different time and a different culture, so be mindful of that. So in Dylan's eyes, he's not necessarily too sure why Giselle overreacted, considering that Jefferson did something very disrespectful cultural wise. Okay, cool. So Silver is like, oh my goodness, that's so crazy, like I cannot believe this. So like, is Sonson okay? Is Sonson all right? And Dylan says, yeah, he's okay. Like he was just walking away. He's all right. But you know what? Do you have some time? And Silver's like, yeah, I have some time. Like I actually came to see you and Bois. And Dylan's like, Bois not here right now. He just took off to do something. Do you want to stay and wait till he comes over? And Silver's like, of course. And so Dylan's like, okay, then you don't mind if I tell you this little story that I'm going to tell you, which Silver's super excited for. And he's like, all right, I'm super excited. I'm ready. Let the story begin. And now we begin our folktale. Well, not really. It's a story within a story. But like, we're beginning, like it starts now. Like, yeah. All right. Okay, now, so if I said this was set in 1950s, probably I'm thinking around closer to 1970s now. Then the actual this actual background story is set, let's say, 50 years before then, because Dylan's super old, and in the actual story that he talks about, he's kind of young. He's like in his 20s, and Y is like 9 years old. Okay, so cool. Let's just kind of keep that in mind. I know the dates are like not super focused. It's a folktale, get over it. Like, it is whatever. Sit down. Okay, it's gonna get good. So anyway, back in the days, Dylan was around in his like late 20s, perhaps around 29 years old, and he had Bois like 9 years ago. Bois was like 9 years old, and they had recently lost Bois' mother. He used to live with his son in the countryside by themselves. Now back then, things were very different. They didn't have as much as a city. The houses were pretty scattered in the forest, mountains, really, like not less foresty, more mountains. And so that was their life. They were very simple people. So Sonson had gave Dylan a goat to watch. Now Dylan really liked the goat, and we're gonna call the goat Tibet. Okay, we're gonna address it as Tibet so we can keep the Haitian essence in the story, but whatever. So one morning, Dylan wakes up and he has his little temos. He's drinking his tea and he's saying his prayer to God in the morning. Thank you, God, for a blessed day, love it, be grateful. And he turns around and he sees some scumbag just trying to pick at his goat, and he's like, what the hell, like, get away from here, shoo. And the scumbag leaves. Now, something to understand about the town at the time is that they had no great justice system, right? Remember, this is back in the days, and this is also in Haiti. They had no great justice system. What we had instead was individual commander systems. Like, and I say commander, it's not necessarily a great terminology, but let me quickly explain. So every section, every town had like these people that they appointed to be the leaders, right? And these people were supposed to be the justice system. They were also the security. They were pretty much everything all at once. And so when a crime happened, the people would bring the alleged criminal to that place, and the commander, the chief, however you want to call him, he would make a decision based on the proof given by the people, and he would punish the person. So an example of that is that right before Dylan starts his day, the day prior, a guy who steals some plantains, like an entire thing of plantains from somebody, is brought to the justice system, to the house that, and we're gonna call the house the Capitol House. Okay, so he's brought to the Capitol House, and the commander is like, what's going on? And they explain that, hey, he stole this plantains from this, that, and the third. And so they bring him in, and as a source of punishment, they beat him. They literally whip him. He's laying on the floor like he's just being whipped like a kid, basically. So that was his punishment. So you understand that this is going to be really important to the story. So anyway, so Dylan is watching his goat. He's like, get away from the goat, da 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 da, and the goat is doing fine. So Dylan's having a good day. So as the day goes on, Sonson comes by, and he's much younger again, and he's like, hey Dylan, how are you? And Dylan's like, I'm good. Could you believe that I found somebody trying to steal your goat? And Sonson's like, oh my god, not Tibet, I love Tibet. And Sonson's like, not Sonson, and Dylan's like, of course you love Tibet. Sonson's like, I love Tibet, okay, I love Tibet. And Sonson begins to explain his goals with Tibet. Now here's the understanding. This is back in the days, and also this is in Haiti, so a goat is pretty costly because of what you can do with the goat, right? Tibet was a female goat. Sonson was probably, I don't think if that was really clear, but normally what happens is that when you have a female goat or a female animal like that, people with the male of that same animal will pay you money so that the male can impregnate the female and they could have babies, right? They could buy the babies from you too, so they could have more goats or more cows or whatever. So that was basically Sonson's goal. He had already promised to people that he would let their little goats sleep with Tibet. I'm so sorry we were whoring around the goat. So sorry, but he had already promised people that he would do these transactions with them. And so I'm not sure if I'm too correct on this. I believe they paid, there might have been payment before, but the goat was his lifeline basically, because that goat was supposed to give baby goats, and some of those baby goats were also going towards Dile for even watching the goat in the first place. So that's the goat that they talked about, and they have some fun, and Dile invites him over for some lemonade and honey. The day goes well, the day is fine. The next morning, as Dile wakes up to pray, he's praying to the sky again, not to the sky, to God, but he's looking at the sky and he's like, God, thank you, I'm so grateful for my life. Bois comes running and he's like, Father, 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 Father. And Haitian's dad, so he ignores Bois, and Bois like, Father, 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 Father. And Bois like, what is it, boy? What is it? And Bois like, not Bois, Dile was like, what is it, boy? And Bois says, the goat is gone. Somebody stole Tibet. And Dylan is like, oh my god. So Dylan runs to where he hid Tibet, basically. Also, something to know is that the animals are pretty much outside. They were normally tied to things, like hard things on the ground that wouldn't move, or trees. So Dylan went to figure out what happened, right? And he goes to the tree that he tied Tibet at, and it's just the cord left. So he knows somebody stole Tibet. Conveniently for him, though, as he was looking at the rope, he had his hand in his head, because he's a Haitian. That's what we do when we're stressed. We're like, what? That's not me. What are we gonna do? So that's what he's doing. This woman passes by, and she's selling breakfast, and she's like, oh, Dylan, I brought breakfast. You're not gonna buy? She didn't say like that. Whatever. And Dylan was like, actually, no, I don't think I'm gonna buy. Matter of fact, I think I'm in deep shit, because, Sonson, I was supposed to be watching his goat. I think somebody stole the goat. And the lady's like familiar with the goat, so she's like, it's not, you talking about Tibet? And Dylan's like, of course, yeah, I'm talking about Tibet. And she's like, so you did not sell him to the market? And Dylan's like, no, why would I sell Tibet to the market? It's not my goat. And she's like, well, I just saw, I forgot his name. I just saw such and such trying to get Tibet to go to the market. He's trying to sell Tibet to the market. And Dylan's like, what the hell? That is not right. So Dylan's like, boy, go get your hat, go get your shirt. We're going to solve this issue right now. We're going to get Tibet. Sevilon. That was the name. Very Haitian. Very, very Haitian. So anyway, Sevilon is the man basically accused of allegedly taking the goat to the market. So when Dylan finds this out, he's like, we gotta find Sevilon. We're going to the capital. And they find him, right? So they're taking him to the capital, and as they're taking him, he's like cursing everybody out, but they're holding him back, right? Look at it. okay. But anyway, they're holding him back and they're like, oh no, you stole the gold, you stole the gold, you're gonna get justice today. They bring him to the Capitol House. And when they bring him to the Capitol House, Sebulon detached himself, he frees himself from everybody else. He goes to the stage, like, he gets up the stairs to the Capitol House and he starts cursing out the group. Well, basically trying to show you the difference between him and the first guy I told you guys who stole the plantains. So he's like cursing them out. He's like, screw you, F you, blah, 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 blah. And the commander's like, oh, geez, Sebulon, come here, come inside the Capitol House. And they bring him inside the Capitol House. And the commander comes out and he gives a beautiful speech, right? A beautiful speech. And he's like, the government has given me power to make sure that I protect you guys. Justice needs to be served, and I am the server of justice. Okay, I have the spoon of justice and I will feed it to the criminals. Okay, I have your best interest in my heart. Okay, thank you for bringing this to my attention. We're going to deal with a criminal like him. And everyone's like, fuck yeah, thank you, Commander. Thank you for bringing in justice. And then we start hearing something banging and we start hearing screaming. And the screaming is saying, sorry, Governor. Oh, I say Governor, Commander. Sorry, Commander, hinga dinga durgan. Now, Bois, I remember Bois being Zila's son. He's 9 years old. For some reason, he feels the need to go see what's happening. He goes around the corner of the Capitol House and goes to see a window that's kind of going to the that's for the basement. So he crouches down and he goes in the window and he sees Sebulon basically sitting down next to these group of guys having fun laughing, and one of these guys is actually holding a stick, a paddle, beating on a sack full of something. So every time the paddle hits the sack, Sebulon screams, sorry commander, and then he laughs to his friend like, ha ha ha, look at these bozos. And Bois is so shocked, he runs back to his father and he tells his father what's going on. Now after the father finds this out, he's kind of like, I don't know what to do, but I think he was just shocked, honestly. He has a little monologue that's like, this is not okay. This is not right at all. I don't know what to do about this. And he basically takes Bois and they leave. Now, he's super sad about what's going on, but he's even more sad to tell Sonson what's going on. So he waits for Sonson, and as they wait, Bois tries to be like, this is not right, father, let's do something. And the father's like, you don't understand, this is the justice system. We don't have a lot on our hands here. These guys kind of run the territory. We don't have a lot on our hands. I just need to tell Sonson what happens and see what he decides to do or what he wants to do. So finally, Sonson comes around and Dylan lets him know what happens, and Sonson is devastated. Again, remember, this was a financial investment, okay? These goats were supposed to make him some money with baby goats, and he was already promising people such as Dylan that they will have baby goats. And so he's devastated. He's like, oh my goodness, no way, yada yada yada, this doesn't make any sense. Did you guys at least find the goat? And Sebulon is like, not Sebulon, sorry, Dylan's like, no, they said the goat is going somewhere, we're not sure what's going on, da 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 da. And Sonson is like, you know what, tomorrow morning you and I, we're going to the Capitol. Dylan says, of course, let's go. And tomorrow morning comes around and they go to the Capitol. Now, when they come in, the commander's acting like he's some hot shit. He's like, sit down, da 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 da. Did I try to speak to me? He's like super militant. And Sonson's like, actually, this was my goat that got stolen. Dylan is just the friend that I had watching my goat, and I need the goat back. So can I please get it back? And the commander's like, no, you can't get it back because the goat is going to Port-au-Prince. And Dylan basically says something like, why is it going to Port-au-Prince? It's not supposed to, because it was like a stolen goat. To which the commander gets mad and basically has security kick Dylan out. Now the security was coming so rough to Dylan, Dylan gets scared and he runs home, whatever. So now it's just Sonson, the commander, and the security. Sonson explains that he really wants his goat back, and the commander says, you know what? If you want your goat back, you must pay me $300. Okay, $300. Now, I think he said 300 good. I'm not gonna do the math. I don't care to do the math. Pause. I actually did research the financial breakdown of this, and it's actually very devastating. Now, back into the 1950s, which is when I'm assuming this story was done, we know that Commander asked Sonson to bring 300 good, or 300 Haitian goods to him. Back in 1950, 300 Haitian goods was worth 60 Haitian dollars and also 60 USD. However, in 2024, 3 Haitian goods is now worth 60 Haitian dollars still, but it only is worth $2.22 American dollars. Yeah. So Sonson's freaked out. He's like, $300? That's what we're going to refer it to. $300? I don't have that money. What can I do? Da, 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 da. And the commander's like, basically, if you don't like how I run things here, you can always leave this section and not live here, because this is my section. I'm the leader. I'm the leader here. I do whatever I want. Yada, yada, yada. Bullshit. So Sonson's like, you know what, Commander, you're right. I'm so sorry to have disrespected you. That's okay. I will find the money and I will bring it back to you. Let me go. Commander lets him go and Sonson goes on his way. Now, this entire time, Dylan is feeling bad. The son is learning for the first time in his life about the corruption of the justice system. And, they're not feeling good. But Sonson comes to Dylan. He's like, you know what? They're asking me for $300 basically. I need to find a way to do that. So tomorrow I'm going to visit a friend. And Dylan says, okay, no problem. Okay, so Sonson goes down to his friend's house, right? Now, his friend is kind of a bank. Now, again, this is back in the days, but also back in the days of Haiti. Okay, so this man is kind of like a bank. He's cool, good dude. I forgot his name, so we're gonna call him Diego. So Diego is looking at Sonson. He's like, Sonson, come in. And Sonson comes in, and I want to kind of mimic how they talk. So to show you, Sonson comes inside the home, whatever city building he was in, and Diego's like, have a seat. And Sonson sits down, and Diego's like, Sonson, my friend, my buddy, my old pal, what can I do for you? And Sonson goes, you see, I have this goat that I used to have, and Dylan was watching it for me. That's how they speak, basically. And Sonson tells him what's going on. And the guy, Diego, he's like, wait, Sevilom stole your goat? And Sonson's like, yeah. And he's like, Sevilom is the brother of the commander. And Sonson's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't think that was important, but yeah, that's what's going on. And the man's like, so what's gonna happen? What happened to your goat? What's going on? And Sonson says he doesn't know any of that stuff, and all he knows is that the commander requested for him to bring money. So Sonson says, I'm actually here for a loan. The guy says, Sonson, I'm seriously sorry. I can only give you $200. I can't give you the full amount. And Sonson's like, no, that's okay, I'll take what I can get from you, yada yada yada. And he was like, well, Sonson, what were you gonna go do with the goat? And Sonson basically explains his financial stuff. And after a while of catching back and forth, the guy is like, you know what, Sonson, I'll give you the full money, but I'll give you the full money. I just really want you to get your goat back so you can get back on your feet. And Sonson's like, you know what, thank you, buddy, I appreciate it. He signs his name because it's still a bank. It's just a community bank, I guess. He signs his name to make sure, this is how much he owed. And he already owed Diego some money. So that's probably why Diego was less hesitant on giving him the full money. But he owed Diego some money and Diego gave him the rest of the money that he needed. So whatever. Sonson is super excited, right? So it cuts. Now in the movie, I'm going to tell you exactly how the movie shows it because I think it's more interesting that way. So that same night, basically, Sevilom is drunk as hell. Him, the commander, and their buddies, they're having fun, right? They're playing dominoes outside of the Capitol House. They're enjoying themselves, and it's a drunken night for all of them. And they are cooking. They're like, the women around are cooking and they're having fun. So the women are cooking banan peze, which is fried plantains, Haitian style. And they are also cooking goat. That's right. So Sevilom basically had the goat. He stole the goat. They were never going to give the goat back. They killed the goat so that they could have a goat night. So the women are making fried goat, the men are just laughing, acting around, acting a fool, and Sevilom is actually being, like, I think the movie wanted to show you how kind of crass and detestable his character was. So he begins making some very sexual jokes or whatever, yada yada yada. He's kind of gross. So he's drunk and gross and he's having fun. And one of the characters, actually, his wife comes to pick him up. His wife's like, you cannot stay. You're not gonna eat this goat. You can't have fun. You need to go home now. We're gonna call him Peter. So Peter is forced to go home and Sevilom makes fun of him. He's like, there wasn't enough goat to give you anyway. So take your ass home. You're not gonna get goat. Yada yada. What's the bullshit? Cool. So the ladies cook the goat. The men have fun. Great. Now, the next morning, you see that there was something done in the woods the night prior. So while the guys were eating the goats, Sonson was doing something very specific. Sonson was actually practicing magic. He had, I'm not gonna describe too much, but he had a red rag. And here's something about perception of voodoo, like Haitian voodoo and magic in media, there's always a red rag, okay? It's not saying that the person is really well aware of voodoo or they're not aware of voodoo at all. It's just the stereotypes of showing voodoo. There's always a red rag involved, whether it's in a bottle of liquor, whether it's in somebody's head, whether it's wrapped around the hand, whether it's hanging somewhere. When you see that red rag and they're talking about voodoo, they're trying to mimic or portray in media what they believe Haitian voodoo to resemble or the practice of that looks like. So that's what's happening. Sonson is practicing voodoo and he's doing magic in the woods. And as the men are enjoying themselves, they're eating the goat, having a good time, he's doing so. Fantastic. We have that. So the next day, we find a very frustrated Dylan and Sonson hanging out together. And Dylan, who's a man of the land, he's like, that's the justice system. It's corrupted. There was nothing we could have done. I'm really sorry about the goat. And Sonson is like, very angry. Sonson is disturbingly angry, and Sonson explains to Dylan that after he went to Diego and got the money that he needed, plus a little more actually, he gave it to the commander and they still did not give him back his goat, right? They stole the money. So that's the thing. Not only did his brother, the commander's brother, take his goat, they disrespect him, but then they eat his money. So Sonson is livid. He's mad. And Dylan's like, but that's just how things are. The justice system is corrupted, yada, yada. And Sonson is not having it. Sonson is livid. And Sonson leaves. That's a conversation between him and Dylan. And now we have a little snippet about Peter kind of arguing with his wife. They're like funny, yada, yada, yada. The thing about Peter and his wife is that not only are they the funny duo because his wife is constantly yelling at him for being annoying and stupid and he's yelling at his wife back, whatever. The thing about Peter that's important to realize is that Peter was there that night to enjoy the company and enjoy the liquor, but Peter never really ate the goat meat. However, he did offer up the pot so that the goat meat could be cooked in, and you can see where we're going with this, right? Cool, whatever. So he did offer up the pot so the goat meat could be cooked. So on that day, he's actually coming home. His wife yells at him to go get her pot back because she needs the pot so she could cook in her house because it's the one pot they have, and he keeps offering it to other people and not bringing it back. And he's like, okay, whatever, I'll go get the pot. Instead of himself going to go get it, he sends a child to get it. The child goes to get the pot, brings the pot back to him, and as he's talking to the child, a man walks by. Now, as this man walks by, he goes towards the Capitol house and he goes towards the backyard of the house where a woman is sitting down, and he says, "Can I talk to you for a second?" Okay, so we're gonna call the girl Stephanie, all right? And so the man comes and the man's like, "Are you the commander's wife?" And Stephanie's like, "Yes, I am." And the man's like, "Please sit down." And Stephanie was like, "What's going on?" And she turns to her friend, who we're gonna call Nadine, but she was there helping Stephanie peel some peas or whatever. They were cooking together. And so Stephanie sits down and the man is like, "I'm really sorry to tell you this. We don't know what happened, but the commander is dead." Now, significant pause for the culture, okay? Now, here's a stereotype that you may know about us that's probably very, very true, unlike some things that were said about us in these recent months. Haitians are loud. Haitians are very loud, okay? We tend to be loud. And if you don't believe me, walk next to a Haitian talking on the phone at a Walmart or any public space for that matter. So we tend to be very loud, but we're also very theatrical. And that's because we're also very passionate about how we express ourselves. These can come out with loud, very loud expressions, especially when we're talking about grief. So it is quite normal for Haitians to express their grief through loud, I'm talking about loud and passionate gestures. So when Stephanie hears the news of her husband dying, she swings her arms in the air. She's like, "Oh my God!" She starts to cry, she's grieving. And Nadine, which is another cultural phenomenon, is that she doesn't necessarily have any relations to Commander, as we can tell. She's the friend of Stephanie. She's not really, they're not really that close together, whatever. But she too begins to scream hysterically and joins Stephanie in this mourning process. And as this is happening, we learned that this happens to basically everybody who was there that night enjoying that goat. And unfortunately, this also happens to Peter, because even though Peter didn't actually eat Because even though he didn't actually eat any of the goat, he ends up passing away because he gave the pot for the goat to cook in. And if I was the ghost of Peter, I would constantly stomp on the ghost of the commander and anybody else, right? So as this happening, we get to the viewpoint of a guy coming from Port-au-Prince. Now he takes a bus from Port-au-Prince to wherever he's going. He takes a bike, and as he get off the bike, this guy's like, hey, if you want to go to Sevilom's house, you're going to go to A, B, C, D, and whatever. And he's like, okay. And he does just that. And he's walking to Sevilom's house, but as he's about to get there, Sevilom's actually going the opposite way. So he's like, oh, dude, Sevilom, please come here. I have something very important that I need to talk to you about. We need to go to your house to discuss this matter right now. And Sevilom is like, no, we cannot. I have an emergency that I must handle right now. And the guy is seen looking to the right, and then he turns to Sevilom and he says, no, we need to go to the house to discuss this right now. Like, this is really important. And Sevilom's like, no, I really cannot. I have emergencies. Like, someone just passed away. However, my wife is at home. You know, if you need anything, she'll give it to you. Just go home, and when I'm done, I'll come meet you there. And the guy says, you know what? Okay. And he continues to walk away, but he looks to the right, which at the time when you're watching it, it seemed pretty insignificant. He just looked to the right. Maybe he was looking at the camera for all we know. But anyway, he continues to walk to Sevilom's house. Now, I don't know what happens. Perhaps after he gets to Sevilom's house, he decides to walk back out again. When he comes back out, he hears hysterics. People are yelling and screaming, and he follows the noise to a home. When he gets to that home, there's a lot of Haitians. Some of them are screaming, you know, some of them are yelling and stuff, and others are just standing still, but they're all basically surrounding a dead body on the floor. Once he gets closer to the dead body's covered by a white sheet. He looks at the white sheet. A woman comes out the house, takes off the white sheet from the head of the person who's dead, and he sees it's no one else other than Sevilom. And he is shocked, baby. He's like, oh my God, I was just talking to him. But better yet, we get a flashback. Actually, he's even in more shock. Don't look at my slide. He's even in more shock because when he actually encountered Sevilom on that path, he looked to the right of him because there were 3 dead bodies standing behind Sevilom. Now, these dead bodies are a description or a depiction of zombie in the culture of Vodou, in the religion of Vodou. They are wrapped around with white sheets and are tied with some kind of string or cord or whatever, but they were supposed to be zombies. And they came to pick up Sevilom because he had places to be, and it was not where he thought it was going. Okay, so that's what happens. Sevilom passes away, and because he puts 2 and 2 together that it's magic, he faints. I would faint too, but that's the story. And remember, this was Dylan and Silver talking, and by then they walked on the beach, they ate a sugar cane, they high-fived, they skipped, they're leaning on the beach, they took off their shirts, they're live, they're enjoying their lives. And Dylan's like, so you know, I'm not telling you what Sonson did or did not do because I don't know. But till today, everybody knows what happened at that Capitol House. Okay, everybody. And Silver's like, oh my God, that's crazy. You're right. Honestly, I would never want to have Sonson on my bad side. And that's basically the end of the story. The story ends here. One of my main reasons that I share folktales, stories, folklores, and all of that stuff around the world, especially in my country, is because my favorite part about it is asking you guys, what was the message behind the story? Was there some kind of morality, value, principle? Did you learn anything about the story? Was it just for entertainment purposes? We'll never know. Now, I think in the story of Sonson, it's clear that there is a message. And most of the time we'll talk about Sonson, we'll kind of focus on a morality message, right? If you do wrong, you will have consequences. So do good so you don't have these bad consequences, right? Because what happens? Obviously, the commander stole the goat, stole the money, all of that stuff, and Sonson went and did dark magic and took the whole team out, and that's easy to see. But instead of focusing on the moral compass or values of Sonson, I'd like to focus on something much bigger to me and much more sinister, which is the corruption of Haiti's government. That's what I believe the show to represent to me today. That was not a good sentence. That was not a good sentence. Well, that's what I think the show... That's not a good sentence either. What's going on with my English? Anyway, to further my point, as we are all aware, Haiti's been going through chaos and crisis non-stop for the years. And right now, there is a rampant number of gang members going out terrorizing the country. They have taken over 80% of the capital, and they're still kind of aiming to seep into the rest of the country to do more carnage and damage. We understand that. Before we were talking about gangs in Haiti, we were talking about the earthquake in Haiti. Before we were talking about the earthquake in Haiti, we were talking about the famine in Haiti. Before we're talking about the famine, we're constantly, always talking about some
horrifying stuff to do with Haiti, my country, my home, my people. And with that understanding, you would wonder, how come this country is always going through whatever it's going through? There's always something happening with the country. When we have this kind of stories about Haiti, people often have the questions like, damn, something's always happening with our country. What is wrong with these people? Why don't these people just shape up and fix their country? And that's what I want to focus on today precisely. Because while Sonson, in my eyes, shows us the corruption of the government, obviously Sonson has to deal with that and Dylan has to deal with that firsthand, I'd like to focus on Sonson and Dylan themselves, not necessarily why the government is corrupted. I don't care why. What I want to talk about today is how we view and perceive the Haitian people when we're talking about them surviving and being victims of great crisis and great corruption, like from their leaders. When we look at Dylan and Sonson, we see two regular people with two regular lives. They're not the biggest, they don't have the most money, they don't have power, they're just regular civilians living their lives. We see them go through the understanding of the government being corrupted, and we see two violent reactions from each of them. Well, two different reactions from each of them, one more violent than the other. And while you can say that Dylan had a more passive reaction towards what's going on because it wasn't his goat, I don't agree with that. I believe that Dylan represents a very specific demographic of Haitians. Now, I'd like to classify Dylan as a more passive person when it comes to the understanding of their country's downfall. Now, Dylan understands that, you know what, Commander stole the gold, stole the money. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. Even in the movie, he talks about how, you know, it's like that. The government just does that. They're bad people. They're corrupted. I guess we move on and we live on. And normally, when you talk to many Haitians, that's how they feel. Even if they are passionate, telling you how, oh, I want to do something about it, they normally end off with saying there's nothing that they really can do about it. They barely make more than $2 a day. They just want to live on their lives, be happy, have their little commerce, have their little money, do the little things, and just be all right, because there's nothing that they believe that they can do about the government. And that plays an important role, right? It's like living in an abusive household, knowing that there's nothing you can do to stop it. It is not your fault that you're in the abusive household. You did not create this household, but you're stuck there witnessing and basically having to deal with the consequences of being there day in and day out. And while neighbors look through your window and see this stuff is happening to you, instead of coming in to help, they come in to either provide you more hurt and more pain, or they criticize you for not doing anything about it. And that's what most passive characters, most passive Haitians have to go through. When they come into America to try to basically assimilate to the American lifestyle, they often have to hear these rhetorics about them and their own country. They often hear the fact that Haitians don't do anything to better their government. Haitians don't do anything to stop the corruption. It's Haitians' fault. It is Haitians' responsibility that they are in the loophole and the shithole that they are in today. It is never, how are you? What happened? Let me hear it from your point of view. What do you think this is happening? How do you think we can fix this? How do you think we can help? They often give their own unprecedented ideas about what's happening in the country without so much as understanding or knowledge about the country's history. And while talking to a Haitian that kind of aligns with Dylan, you might feel sad and burnt out a little bit. You'll probably still go home and have a peaceful night, as peaceful as it can be for you. However, talking to a character like Sonson promotes a different kind of reaction. And before I say what I'm going to say, I need to say I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, sociologist. I have a bachelor's degree. Someday I will be one of these things, but not today, baby. Not today. Today I'm just a girl who genuinely believes that Haitians as a population suffer from collective PTSD, not only from their slave history with their slave history with the country, with themselves, but also from the constant puppeteering and the corruption of their own government. And now, being victims of PTSD gives you characters much like Dylan, who's kind of like in an abusive household and just kind of, there's nothing he can do about it. He just allows the household to stay as fit. And then we have characters like Sonson, who I'd like to go into much deeper today. Now, one thing I like about the character Sonson is that in the story, he's not necessarily a bad person. I do truly appreciate that the story never really shows or demonstrates Sonson or labels Sonson to be a bad person. You can tell that because he's still friends with Dylan. They still have a relationship in the future. Instead, they just showed you that he in turn went to go find his own consequences for the government's corruption. And that is the character that I'd like to talk about today. We talked about Dylan's character, right? A more passive person to Haiti's corruption government. They're basically just like any other Haitian. It is what it is. They can't do anything about it. But then we have characters like Sonson, who are more inclined to do something about it, right? these characters, perhaps somebody who was already working in the cabinet, somebody who was already working in the government, who witnessed the corruption for themselves, somebody who's more willing and inclined to go to protest, go do go manifestation in the ville, someone who's not just passionate about seeing the change in the country, they actively go to do the change in the country, like Bertude, for example, somebody who's willing to do that. However, the thing about Sonson is that his character represents a very dark version of that. His character doesn't represent Bertude, who's out there working with the country, trying to make the country better as the country is going through its thing. This character of Sonson represents a more sinister character in our country, somebody who's more likely to use these corrupted tunnels to get their own way, to use these corrupted methods to bring their own sense of justice and morality in the country. Somebody like Barbecue. And let's get it clear, this is not to empathize with a gang leader. There is no empathizing with a gang leader, specifically that gang leader too. What this is understanding, however, is these are the consequences. These are the result of such a long corrupted government. And the truth is, whenever we talk about Haitians, we never necessarily look at the civilians, the people. We often look at the country as if the country in itself has everybody being individually responsible for where the country actually is. Whereas if we look at the history of Haiti, the country never stood a chance, okay? The truth is, after this hundreds of years of paying France for winning their independence, and it was no little cheap money, it was 300% of the annual income of Haiti for all of those years. After a whole century plus some decades of doing that, they quickly go into corruption because of the Duvalier regions, right? The Papa Doc and the Baby Doc. Whenever you talk to a Haitian about when did the corruption in Haiti really start? What's going on? When was the first time you understood corruption? They will most likely talk to you about Papa Doc. Now, it can be because obviously people who remember much more in the past are probably no longer with us, and Papa Doc has most elders that are still around in the country. That's who they remember. But it also does explain to us how so much money is supposedly entering the Haitian government or the Haitian economics, but they're never falling into the hands of the people. And with that understanding, the people are angry, the people are upset, but most importantly, the people are tired of defending themselves, not only from foreign governing bodies like the United States and France, but also from each other. And that is the most disheartening part of the understanding of Haiti's legacy, of Haiti's government corruption. It is not only that Haitians have to deal with external affairs dealing with their country. It's not only the fact that they had to deal with France and United States, but these countries also maneuvered the country in a way to puppeteer the governors. And I'm not saying that the governors don't have responsibility. They are consenting adults. They have autonomy. Of course they had it. Of course they did it. But with the understanding that the people, your own people who perhaps grew up in your neighborhood, because that's not all of them, people who perhaps grew up in your neighborhood are still capable of running you over for their own goods, resources, and means. People that you used to watch on TV sing about the corrupted government, then becoming the corrupted government that they sung about. And people who live in your country reap of the riches of your land, live in your home as oligarchs, hoarding all the money to themselves and letting you fall to pieces, letting your neighborhoods burn to ashes as gang members come in and destroy it all together. And when you look for help, when you seek need, when you seek help, the Red Cross promises you that they're going to send you aid. They send billions of dollars to build 6,000 or 6 million houses, and they build you 6 tents. You are left by yourself. The thing is, we often talk about how most of Haiti is illiterate and most people don't understand what's going on, but most people truly have a very great understanding of the corruption happening in their government. They may not have historical facts and context and dates like we do, but they know better than most the results of having a government like theirs. They know exactly where to point the finger to when they're talking about their corrupted government. They are pointing at the people doing the corruption, but that finger extends to the people puppeteering the corruption. It is the fact that we often think we are so much better than Haitians, especially Haitians here, who think that they are so much better than Haitians back home, that we refuse to talk about our people with the right terminology, with the right understanding. We don't need to be talking about Haitians as if they are lazy and don't want a better country, because that is not the case. We need to talk about Haitians as who they really are. which is people and victims of a corrupted legacy, of a corrupted government, victims who are basically being hopped around by oligarchs working with government, government working with gangs, gangs working with oligarchs, because all three of them are one and the same. And it doesn't matter which one of them tries to take power over the other, the civilians will always reap the consequences of that. And no matter where they go, the long roots of their forgotten legacy, the long roots of their corrupted government, the long roots of their lack of a representation or distaste for representation in the global's eye will constantly follow them. Even though we have numerous names, numerous people that we could point at for the reason why my country is the way that it is. And yes, it does involve some Haitians, because the oligarchs living in the country, some of them are Haitians. The government corruption is done by Haitians. The gang is led by Haitians. They are marching with Haitians, killing other Haitians in the country. And that was Sonson's message. Sonson does not just tell us to have good moral compass and good values. Sonson was just not telling us to do good because if you do bad, there'll be consequences. No, Sonson showed us and warned us about the consequences of having such a destructive and corruptive government, a corrupted justice system. When that person in the country is left with nowhere to turn, nobody to trust but themselves, what are they capable of doing? What lengths are they willing to go through to take justice in their own hands? And no matter how twisted it is, no matter how wrong it is, no matter how destructive and disgusting it is, we are seeing the consequences of that through a very well-known gang leader walking the streets of my country. I can only hope in turn that you, especially if you're of Haitian descent, go look into your country's history, go look into your country's background, the politics of it all. Even if you don't want to read, you can watch a video and understand better why the country is in the state that it is, who is responsible, and how can you help civilians, because there are things that you still can do. In the meanwhile, if you want more folktales, they are coming up. Be a little patient with me. Thanks, and I will see you some other time.